It usually starts the same way. The day winds down, dinner is finished, and you settle into your usual spot on the couch. The remote is exactly where you left it. Maybe you scroll for a while, flipping between channels, checking what's on. A rerun, another news cycle, a game show you've already seen. You let it play anyway, not because it's interesting, but because it's easy. Familiar, background noise that fills the room while your mind drifts elsewhere. You don't hate TV. It's been there for you through good years and hard ones. It kept you company when the house was too quiet. It gave you something to laugh at when the days felt long. But lately, something feels different. You find yourself tuning out. You've watched everything you wanted to see. New shows don't hold your attention. The sound blends together, and the light flickers against the walls like wallpaper. It's not entertaining anymore. It's just there. And beneath that feeling, there's a quiet question forming. Is this really how I want to spend my time? That question isn't about guilt. It's not about wasting time or doing something wrong. It's about hunger, a kind of inner craving for something richer, for something that wakes you up a little, makes you feel connected again, surprised, moved, delighted. You're not asking for much. You just want to feel interested again. To feel like your evenings offer something more than another plot twist or laugh track. Because here's the truth, TV is easy, but it doesn't always feed you. It passes the time, but it doesn't always give time back to you in return. And if you've been feeling like you're quietly starving for something deeper, something more alive, you're not alone. The good news? There are dozens of ways to bring more color, culture, and texture into your evenings. And they don't require expensive tickets, long drives, or waiting for someone else to suggest them. Many of them start right where you are, at your kitchen table, in your community, with your own hands, heart, and imagination. In this video, we'll explore 6 simple, soulful ideas for cultural entertainment that go far beyond the screen. These aren't chores or obligations. They're not about self-improvement or productivity. They're about enjoyment, curiosity, connection, the kind of quiet joy that lingers after the activity ends. We'll look at how to bring art and music into your home in new ways. How storytelling, both reading and sharing, can reawaken parts of you that TV can't touch. We'll talk about gentle group experiences that don't feel overwhelming. We'll even explore how everyday rituals, like letter writing or cooking, can become cultural experiences when done with presence. Because life doesn't end when the screen turns off. In fact, sometimes that's exactly when it begins. There's something almost sacred about listening when it's done with intention. Not as background noise, not as a filler, but as a true act of presence. And in a world filled with constant distractions and screens that flash without pause, we've forgotten what it's like to really listen. To sit still, to close our eyes, and to be moved by sound alone. One of the simplest and most enriching cultural experiences you can bring into your home is the act of deep listening. Not to television, not even necessarily to conversation, but to music, to voices, to the kind of audio that stirs memory, awakens emotion, and calls your mind into places it hasn't visited in a while. Start with music, but not the kind you play while doing dishes. Choose one evening a week, even just an hour, to turn your living room into a small concert hall. Dim the lights, sit comfortably, and play an album from beginning to end, something that meant something to you once. It could be the records you danced to in the 60s, or jazz that filled the air on Sunday mornings, or gospel harmonies that made your heart swell. Let the music play without doing anything else. Close your eyes if it helps. Let the notes land like raindrops on a quiet roof. Let your breath sync with the rhythm. You can even create themes. An evening of folk ballads, a night of piano sonatas, a journey through Motown or Delta blues. Let the music tell a story, and let yourself remember the stories tied to it. Music doesn't just entertain, it remembers with you. It brings people back to life, places, feelings, the echo of your first dance, the voice of a parent humming in the kitchen, the energy of a summer night when everything felt open and new. But it doesn't have to end with music. There's an entire world of storytelling waiting in audio form. Audiobooks read aloud by warm, human voices. Podcasts that blend conversation with reflection. poetry collections recorded by the poets themselves. There's a different intimacy in being read to than in reading. It activates the imagination, like when you were a child and someone told you a story as you drifted off to sleep. Some evenings, instead of the usual news, I sit and listen to an old play, recorded radio dramas with crackling dialogue and simple sound effects. They make me feel like I'm in another time. They slow me down. They don't demand my eyes, only my attention. And that makes them feel different from everything else. The beauty of these experiences is that they're easy to find. You don't need a subscription or fancy speakers. Just a quiet space, a willingness to pause, and the desire to feel again. Because listening, when done with care, isn't passive. It's one of the most alive things we can do. It reminds us that we're still capable of feeling deeply, imagining fully, and receiving beauty without having to chase it. There's something profoundly grounding about using your hands, especially in a world that's grown so digital, so fast, so flat. We scroll, we swipe, we click, but rarely do we touch, shape, or build anymore. That's why the third form of cultural entertainment I want to offer doesn't involve screens, voices, or even words. It involves your fingers, your palms, and the quiet concentration of doing something physical, something tactile, something real. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be perfect. That's the beauty of it. Creating with your hands isn't about talent. It's about attention. And attention is what brings you back to yourself. Clay, yarn, paint, thread, fabric, wood, even paper, they all have texture. They ask you to slow down, to feel, to engage with the present moment in a way screens never can. You feel your heartbeat. You notice the weight of the object. You're creating something you can touch, not just consume. Have you tried watercolors lately? They don't demand precision, just movement and curiosity. The way the pigment blooms across paper is soothing, like watching ripples in a pond. Or origami, a single sheet of paper folded into something beautiful. That act alone has meditative power. What about embroidery or even mending something by hand? A needle moving through cloth in repetition slows the mind. It's not old-fashioned, it's ancient, human. Textiles have always told stories. I met a woman last year who started a hands club in her senior center. Every Tuesday afternoon, people gather with materials, knitting, collage, whittling, calligraphy. Some bring nothing and just watch. Some only join to drink tea and comment on the colors. It doesn't matter. The energy in the room is calm, present, engaged. They share memories, laugh when things go wrong, and leave with something physical to show for the time they spent. You can bring this spirit into your home, even alone. Arrange a corner with paper and colored pencils. Set up a tray with puzzles, beads, shells, anything small and delicate you can arrange or build with. Make something for no reason, for no one. Let your hands teach your mind how to slow down. And don't forget the garden. Gardening is culture. It's art. It's patience. Whether you tend a full plot or a single plant on the windowsill, you are caring for life. You are shaping beauty. Watching growth over weeks and months teaches things television never could. The rhythm of time, the language of care, the joy of cycles. Tactile culture isn't about crafting. It's about reconnecting with your body, with the slowness of presence, and with the ancient human joy of making. When you make something, you leave a mark on a page, in the soil, or simply in your own memory. That too is culture. That too is worth your time. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from living alone. It comes from spending too many days without real conversation, from not hearing your name spoken aloud by someone who means it, from moving through rooms, stores, sidewalks, and routines without ever being seen. It's subtle. It builds slowly. And one day, you catch yourself wondering, when was the last time I laughed with someone in the same room? That's why one of the most powerful forms of cultural nourishment is something many overlook: small, consistent, meaningful connection. Not grand events, not busy calendars, but shared space with others. A living room with 3 chairs, a pot of tea, a reason to sit and talk and listen. It could be a tiny book circle, not the kind that assigns chapters and quizzes opinions, but a group that simply gathers to share what they've been reading or to read aloud. One story, one article, even one poem, and then you talk. Not as experts, but as people. One woman I spoke with told me her group reads short stories out loud, taking turns. Sometimes we don't even finish the discussion, she said, but the way everyone's voice fills the room, that's the best part. You could also try what another neighbor calls culture nights. Once a month, she invites 2 or 3 people over. No rules. Each person brings one thing: a recipe from their childhood, a song they can't stop listening to, a photo that reminds them of a trip or a person they miss. They share. They listen. They cry sometimes. They laugh often. And every single time, they leave feeling full, not just from food, but from presence. These kinds of gatherings don't require invitations with calligraphy. They don't need tablecloths or name tags. They just need someone to say, "Would you like to come over?" That offer is enough. Because people are hungry, not just for content, but for context. Not just for stimulation, but for witnessing. To be in a space where their thoughts, memories, and moods are allowed. Welcomed. Even more informal gatherings can have deep meaning. A walk with one person, a standing date to sit on the porch every Thursday afternoon, a gentle routine like story and soup. One person tells something from their life while the other listens over dinner. It doesn't take much, just time, openness, and a willingness to hold space. And if organizing something feels like too much, start by attending. Libraries host free discussions. Museums offer docent-led quiet tours. Community centers post flyers with circles for memory sharing, faith reflection, and even letter writing clubs. Most people think they need an excuse to join. The truth? You just need to show up. These moments are cultural in the deepest sense. They preserve what matters. They create new memories. And they remind you, gently, unmistakably, that you are still part of something human, rich, and quietly sacred. There's a certain power in stories that we often overlook. Not the ones on television or in the headlines. The ones we carry. The ones tucked away in our memory, waiting for someone to ask. Waiting for someone to say, "Tell me about when you were younger." And the moment that happens, when you begin to speak, it's as if the past unfolds in color again. That's why storytelling, personal, informal, deeply human storytelling, is one of the richest forms of cultural engagement we have. You don't need a stage. You don't need a script. All you need is your life, your voice, and a willingness to share. Because every life is filled with stories, and every story is a thread in the cultural fabric we leave behind. Begin with a simple question. What do I remember vividly, even now? A sound, a smell, the first time you rode a bike, the day you met someone you'd never forget, a childhood home, a lost friendship. These are not big stories, but they are true, and that makes them powerful. You can write them down one at a time. Start a notebook, a loose sheet of paper, one paragraph at breakfast, where you can record them with your voice, using your phone or a simple recorder. You don't need to speak perfectly. You just need to speak honestly. Imagine that your future great-grandchild might one day hear that voice and suddenly understand you, even if they never met you in person. Or maybe you want to share your stories in the moment, around the dinner table, at a group meeting, in a one-on-one conversation with someone you trust. The power of storytelling isn't in its polish. It's in its presence, in the way it connects us. You speak and someone nods, smiles, says, "That reminds me of," and just like that, you're no longer strangers. Many communities now host story circles, gentle gatherings where people sit in a circle and take turns sharing one memory. It could be funny, painful, quiet. There are no wrong stories, only the ones that haven't yet been spoken. I once attended one of these in a local library basement. There were 8 of us. One woman shared the story of how her father used to drive the family through snowstorms just to see the Christmas lights in other neighborhoods. Another man talked about the first time he cried in front of his children. No one judged. No one interrupted. We just listened. And when it was done, there was a kind of peace in the room. A warmth that came not from what we had learned, but from what we had witnessed. That's what storytelling does. It reminds us that our lives have weight, that our past matters, that even the smallest moments, the grocery store meeting, the lost dog returned, the time someone held your hand without speaking. Those things live on when we tell them. And when you write them, you leave something behind. A map, a mirror, a soft reminder to the next generation. This is who I was. This is what shaped me. This is where you come from. After everything we've talked about, music, touch, community, stories, there's one more form of cultural experience we often overlook: stillness. Not boredom, not absence, but the kind of stillness that has shape and warmth. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, but full. Full of memory, reflection, sensation, and breath. In a world built on noise, stillness is revolutionary. Turning off the screen, not to replace it with another task, but to be with yourself, is its own kind of art. Sitting in a room and noticing the way the light falls across the floor. Watching the way steam rises from your tea. Listening to the hum of your own thoughts without trying to outrun them. It doesn't sound like culture, but it is. Stillness makes room for the rest of life to catch up to you. The emotions you ignored, the insights you almost noticed, the memories that were just below the surface. And when you give those things space, you begin to feel something shift. You soften, you open, you settle. Many people find this kind of stillness through meditation, others through prayer. For some, it's a walk alone without a phone. For others, it's lying under a tree. The key isn't how you do it, it's that you do it. That you create a space in your week, your day, your hour, where nothing needs to happen except being present with yourself. Stillness can also be shared, sitting in silence with a friend, watching a candle burn, listening to a record all the way through without talking. These moments ask nothing of you, and yet they give so much. They give back a sense of time that's not rushed, a sense of self that's not distracted, a sense of culture that is not consumed, but lived. Because that's what this entire journey has been about. Not replacing TV with a new form of entertainment, but expanding what entertainment means. Reclaiming the parts of your evening, your week, yourself, they're still hungry for depth, for meaning, for softness and surprise. You don't have to do all 6 things we talked about. Maybe just one. Maybe just start by turning the volume down for a little while and asking, what do I miss? What do I want to feel again? And then go looking for it, not outside yourself, but through experiences that remind you you're still very much alive. Culture isn't always something you go out to find. Sometimes it's something you invite in, through your hands, your ears, your stories, your kitchen, your attention, through a walk, a song, a sentence spoken aloud and received by another soul. And when you begin to live that way, even just a little, something shifts. The evenings stop feeling flat. The air feels warmer. The days feel like they belong to you again. Thank you for spending this time with us. If this video gave you something to think about, or was something you'd like to try, share in the comments. What's one non-digital joy that brings you peace? What would you like to bring more of into your life? Like the video. Subscribe for more gentle, thoughtful reflections on life after 60. And remember, what you fill your days with fills your spirit. Choose what nourishes you. You deserve that kind of beauty.